Hello, thanks so much for stopping by. I love starting my day with from scratch cooking. For me, it's just a wonderful way to set my day up with wholesomeness and nourishing meals that make me feel my best. And it doesn't have to be time consuming at all. So I'm gonna bring you along and I'm gonna share with you a full week of my favorite farmhouse breakfasts. And we're gonna get started with the first one right now, which is gonna be something that we make all the time. First one this morning is going to be some simple eggs and sourdough toast. So this is sourdough bread that I made last week, actually, in my batch of weekly sourdough baking. And so we're just gonna be pulling that out, slicing it, and I'm going to get my eggs going. I will cook my eggs in a variety of fats. I'll do butter a lot of the time. Sometimes I'll do bacon grease. Sometimes I'll do lard. But we're doing butter today. And I just start my fat of choice melting in there. And I will crack my eggs. We only have part of us eating here this morning, not the entire family. So I'm just going to do 4 eggs, add a little sprinkle of salt, and then I'm just going to whisk these up here. In another video that I did recently, I asked how many of you like mixing with a fork, and lots of you did, which I thought was really fun. I don't know, for something like this, like just eggs or other simple little things that you just want to whisk or mix up like this, I really like a fork. I like it better than a whisk. And I thought it was really fun that so many other people did too. So like I said, this is probably our #1 go-to breakfast. So this will be something that we've had all through the summer this year. We have it lots of the time during the school year. It is really one of our go-to breakfasts that we make over and over again. We always like it. So I'm just gonna pour those in there. For scrambled eggs, I would love to hear, I usually just make them really, really simple. Just eggs with a little sprinkle of salt, cooked in butter or another type of fat. And sometimes there are other things that you can add in, like my husband likes to add shredded cheese, but I know sometimes people will add a splash of water, a splash of milk. Let me know in the comments if you have any secret little add-ins that you like to add to your scrambled eggs, because I'd love to hear what you do. Then that can just be cooking gently. I usually start higher and then turn it down to closer to medium. And while those are cooking, we will slice our bread and get that ready. This is one of the things I love about cast iron, when it's well taken care of, properly seasoned, and you're cooking with lots of fat, lots of animal fat. It is the best non-stick cooking surface. No toxins needed. Another thing I love about cast iron is how easy it is with cleanup. If you were cooking with something using a lot of fat and it just kind of pulled away nicely, oftentimes all you have to do is kind of just wipe out the pan afterwards and you're good to go. So anything that cuts down on extra dirty dishes I'm definitely a fan of that. And then we always have a goal to eat probiotic foods with every meal. So with breakfast, oftentimes our go-tos are either sauerkraut or milk kefir. So I am going to go ahead and pull some sauerkraut out and dish that up to have alongside these eggs and bread. This is some sauerkraut that I made last year. It's been fermenting for a long time. It's the last jar of this particular batch, so it's over a year old at this point. It's really delicious. And yeah, it's my last jar of this batch, so I'm going to need to make some more, which I'm going to share in an upcoming video pretty soon. Or if I'm forgetting the order that I'm putting videos out, maybe it already comes out, I don't remember. But it's in this batch, so either way, you'll see it soon, if you haven't already. All right, and that's breakfast number 1, easy scrambled eggs. Sometimes we do toast the bread, oftentimes we don't, because we like it softer. So sourdough bread with lots of butter and sauerkraut along the side.
Double down on Friday.
Okay, for this next breakfast, we are doing some sourdough pancakes. So for this one, I mix up the batter the night before. So I just have sourdough starter, flour, and then I either do milk or water, depending on what I have on hand. We have a lot of raw milk to use up right now. So I went ahead and did milk, so sourdough starter, flour, and milk, and just keeping that really nice thick pancake batter consistency, and let that sit all night. So this morning we are ready to mix in the rest of the ingredients and start making these. So I have my cast iron skillet heating on the stove. So to this mixture, I'm just going to add a few things. For this amount, what do I have here? It's like 8 cups, almost 8 cups of batter, between 6 and 8 cups of batter altogether. I'm going to be doing 2 teaspoons of salt, and then 1 teaspoon of baking soda. And then I'm going to add 2 eggs. Now the amount of eggs, I think for this amount of batter, 2 would be the minimum. We don't have a lot of extra eggs right now. We have a new batch of laying hen chicks coming because our laying hens are really starting to slow down. But during times when we have lots and lots of eggs to use up, this is a great way to pack tons of eggs into a breakfast. You can add so many eggs to these pancakes. But at minimum for this amount, 2 is what I'm doing. And then we also need to add some melted butter. So this is about, how much is this? It's a good amount of melted butter. I would say anywhere from at least about 4 tablespoons is good, up to, I think this is more like probably 6 tablespoons. Again, this recipe is so forgiving. You can really adjust the amounts just depending on what you have on hand, what you like. So these measurements that I'm doing are just loose guidelines, but it's a good place to get started. Then you can increase the eggs if you want. And then I used raw milk the night before, like I said, which is safe to let that sit on the counter and start to sour overnight. But you can also use whey or yogurt or kefir when you're mixing these up. Buttermilk, of course, buttermilk pancakes. But any of those are going to do a similar thing. And then if you don't have any of that, water works too. But if you do have some type of a dairy product to add, I do find that it makes them more golden and tastier. So you can see there's a reaction going on already with our baking soda mixing with the acidity of the sourdough and the sour milk. So that's going to give us a nice puffy pancake as they start cooking. And I think my griddle over there is starting to get nice and hot, so I'll go ahead and add some butter to that and we'll start cooking these. And then I have some sausages here, some all-natural pork breakfast sausage links that my husband actually cooked earlier this morning. And he does that when he makes his breakfast, so then we can just easily reheat them for our breakfast. And so I have these that I reheated in our toaster oven, so I'm just going to put those there, and then we'll be serving those along with these pancakes. Check on them and see if they're getting ready to turn. Just about. It is time to reduce my heat also. I usually start with medium-high for this, and then as I get cooking, I will reduce it to just below medium. And we have some fresh strawberries as well that we're going to enjoy. This is quite often a breakfast that we'll make for Saturday when there's a bit of extra time, and we'll oftentimes serve them with either bacon or sausage. Today we're doing sausage, and then if we have something fun in season like fruit, then we'll have that alongside as well. And then of course we like to enjoy these with a lot of butter. And so I will just put butter in between every single layer. And then more on the top. So very rarely will we ever have maple syrup or something like this on here. We already have the fruit, the strawberries, so we definitely wouldn't feel like we needed it here, but most of the time this is how we have it. Just pancakes, lots of butter, and our meat, maybe fruit along the side. So we're gonna enjoy those. That's just the way that our tastes have developed because we eat a lot of fat, a lot of fermented food, and so when you eat that way, then your tastes naturally don't want so much sweet food. So we do enjoy sweet flavors for sure, in fruit, maple syrup, here and there. When you eat a lot of fat, it helps keep your blood sugar very stable, and then you don't have sugar cravings. Hey, good morning again. For this breakfast, we're going to be doing one of our favorites that we make quite often, and that's poached eggs on toast. So I'm going to show you, it's really, really fast and easy. This is oftentimes one of our school morning breakfasts. And so we are going to just get the water heating, get the bread ready. It comes together really fast. For this, I use a shallower type of a pan like this, and I'm just going to fill it about 3/4 of the way with water. Just put that on my stove, turn it up to high to let that start boiling. In the meantime, I will start getting my eggs ready to go. I like to crack them rather into a pitcher so that way I can pour them in all at once so that the cook time is exactly the same for however many eggs I'm doing. And I'm also going to get my bread ready. And I like to go ahead and butter my bread for these. And then we just have to wait for that water to boil, and then we can start cooking the eggs. I'm also going to find my slotted spoon because that's going to be needed later when it's time to lift the eggs out of the water. All right, the water is boiling, simmering, so it's time to carefully pour in those eggs. I like to pour them in very gently to help the yolks stay intact. And then if the water seems to be getting crazy, then I'll reduce the heat, but oftentimes I don't really need to, and I'll just leave it at high. And then from here, I don't time them, I just watch, and when I can see that the white is cooked, that's when I take them out. I always like the yolks runny and the white cooked, so that's what I watch for. Usually when it starts to boil up like this, we're just about there. So I turned off my heat took this off of the burner, and then I can kind of look and see how they're doing. You can see that when I take it off the heat, you can just see that the yolks are sitting there, and I just want to make sure that all that white is cooked. We're almost there. Yep, that's looking good. I'm going to go ahead and take those out. Sometimes it does this where the yolk becomes completely separated from the white. Sometimes they stay together nicely, but they're not doing that today. Try to get rid of any extra water that's there. And then we do like to season with a little bit of salt and pepper. For this next breakfast, we're going to be doing soaked oatmeal. So this is another one that comes together very quickly in the morning. It's another one that we'll oftentimes do for a school breakfast. So the night before, I put everything to soak. So I put my organic rolled oats into my pan, and then I put in my soaking liquid. So to soak oats, you need something that's acidic, and probiotic is better yet. And so my favorite is kefir. You can use kefir whey. You can use kefir itself with water. You can use yogurt whey. Any of those things work great. So what I do is I put twice as much liquid as oats. So this time I'm doing 2 cups of rolled oats. And so I'm adding 1 cup of kefir and 3 cups of spring water. And then just letting that sit on the counter with a lid on overnight. Then this morning, it is time to go ahead and start baking, or cooking rather. We don't bake this oatmeal, we cook it. So I'm going to go ahead and put my pan with the oats and kefir water mixture onto the stove. And then I'm going to start by putting the heat on high, just to bring it up to an initial boil. And as it is starting to cook, I'm going to go ahead and add a teaspoon of salt. And you can do this plain with no extra add-ins. Sometimes we like to do fun variations though, so a nice seasonal one as it's back to school and end of summer, early fall is apple cinnamon. So that's what I'm going to do today. So at the same time as adding the salt, I'm going to add a couple teaspoons of cinnamon. And then I'm going to dice up an apple nice and small. Of course, the absolute fastest is just keeping it simple with salt, butter, and something like sucanat or maple syrup for the sweetener. But if we have the time, it is really fun to do extra add-ins as well. So I like to cut up the apple really small. I keep the peels on because I feel like you waste a lot of apple trying to peel them with a knife, and it adds more time, and we don't mind the peels at all. But I do find that we like it the best if the apples are cut really small. So then there can be lots of apple distributed throughout the oatmeal. Even though it hasn't started simmering yet, I'm just going to go ahead and add my apples because they benefit from as long as possible of a cook time. And then while that's still coming to a simmer, I'm going to get my butter ready to add. We like to add quite a lot of butter when we make oatmeal. I like to cut the butter up into some smaller pieces so that when we add it, it melts in more quickly. And then for the sweetener today, I'm going to be doing sucanat. I've talked about this quite a bit on my channel, but it is basically just the whole form of sugar, just dried sugarcane juice with all of the vitamins and minerals intact. It's not refined in any way. So you get everything, including all of those minerals like magnesium that your body needs to digest something like this. And so we will usually add, for this amount, usually like 1/4 to 1/3 of a cup. And I prefer adding this into the pot of oatmeal as it's cooking rather than having it as an extra topping that people can add on their own later. Because for one, again, it's faster that way. But also you can control the amount. You don't have to constantly be like, well, that was too much. Don't use so much. So this is already smelling really, really good. You can smell that cinnamon and the apples starting to cook. Just waiting for that simmer to start, and then we'll reduce the heat and add the butter. Okay, this is really good. So once it starts doing that, then I just turn it all the way down to low and then stir quite a bit right now to make sure it doesn't stick to the bottom at all. And then at this point is a good time to add the butter. Lots of butter, because whenever we're having carbs, we want fat. We want fat all the time anyway, but whenever we're having carbs, we have fat to keep that blood sugar stabilized. And then from here, it's just really waiting for the butter to melt and for the oatmeal to finish cooking so that it's as thick as we like it. Okay, that looks really good. That's getting to be a nice thickness. And then we like to serve this with raw milk. All right, for this next breakfast, we are going to be doing an omelette. And I always think these are really fun because whatever's in season or what you have on hand to use up, you can add into the omelette and make so many different varieties and variations. So I am going to get started. I have my little cast iron skillet here. I'm going to start that heating over the stove. I'm going to add a bit more butter to that. And then I'm going to start cracking my eggs. I think 4 will be good for this one. But of course, that's the nice thing about omelets is that you can adjust to be any number of eggs, just depending on how much you want to make. So I'm just adding a little sprinkle of salt and pepper. And then I'm going to use my trusty fork and whip these up. So I can go ahead and pour these in. And I am starting with my heat at medium-high. But as soon as I put them in, I'm going to reduce it down to medium or just a touch below medium, because I want these to cook gently. While those are cooking, I'm going to go ahead and prep the filling. So I have some shredded cheddar cheese here. I have some little cherry tomatoes from the garden, and then I have some fresh basil leaves here. So I think this is going to be really delicious. Really tasty combination here. But of course you can do any fresh or dried herbs that you have. You can add in different vegetables. Another one that I'll oftentimes do is peppers or spinach. So we'll just cut these basil leaves up nice and small so that they're nicer to eat in there. And then what I'm also going to do is take the tops off of my cherry tomatoes and just cut them in half, because having them sliced is going to be a little bit nicer for this as well. And I'm keeping my eye on my omelet over there. It looks like it's doing nicely. It's not quite ready to flip yet, but maybe when I'm finished with these tomatoes, it'll be ready to turn. Trying to figure out how many of these I want to do. I know we have a lot of these little guys coming out of the garden right now. So I'm thinking I may want to just go ahead and use this bowl up, because chances are we have more coming later today. We did still get some bubbling, which just means that the temperature was a bit on the high side, but it's okay. And it looks like we're in great shape to flip. Ooh, minimal mess. And then let's go ahead and add our toppings to this. So I'm going to start with the cheese. Add the tomatoes next. This is going to be a very generous, full omelet, but that's going to be okay. And that's probably pretty good for the other side cooking. Yeah, it's looking great. So now we're going to try to gently fold this as best we can. Try to turn it over a little bit. Get a little more cheese melting to happen. All right, I bet that's really good. We'll go ahead and take that out onto the plate. Yum. For this next breakfast, we're going to be doing a super quick and easy sourdough discard waffle recipe. So this is one of those where you just use only sourdough discard, so you don't have to remember to start anything soaking the night before. So it comes together really fast. And we're going to also be cooking up some bacon to enjoy alongside these waffles. So let's get started. First thing I'm going to do is go ahead and get my bacon cooking. So I always like to start a little bit of a higher temperature and then reduce the heat. This is some all natural bacon. It is made without sugar, which I love. It's got lots of tasty spices in it, so it's really delicious. I have cured my own bacon before also, when we would buy a whole pig, and that's fun also. Next I'm going to get started with my sourdough discard waffles. So these, I've got to be careful with my favorite tool here. It's amazing how hard these lids can stick on. So this recipe, like many that I do, is rather flexible, and you can really make it work for a lot of different amounts. But I'm going to be doing 1.5 cups of sourdough starter discard. I'm going to add 1 egg to that. So this can be bubbly, fresh sourdough discard that you just took, or it can have been sitting in the fridge for a while. Either works. And then I'm going to add about 1/2 teaspoon of salt and just a little tiny bit of baking soda, like about 1/4 teaspoon or so. Stir that around a little bit. I mostly want to get that egg stirred in a little bit before I add my melted butter. So then I have some butter melting over here, and I'll go ahead and pour that in. And amounts for melted butter for this size of a recipe, about 2 or 3 tablespoons is what I usually do. So I'm just stirring that in, making sure everything is well incorporated. We can see the bubbling action with that baking soda mixing with the
acidity of the sourdough starter, so that helps these waffles be nice and fluffy. I have my waffle iron already heated up. Okay, and I think that looks pretty good. I think that's mixed pretty well. So we'll go ahead and add some trying to be careful to not overfill, because I never like it when we make a mess with waffle batter, when it bubbles out the side and spills. And then we just wait for those to cook, and while those are cooking in the waffle maker, we're gonna check on our bacon. Looking nice. Oh, still a little pale, so we'll let that keep going. These are looking nice. I think I'm going to turn the heat off of the bacons and flip them again. Just make sure they're really evenly done, and they'll be ready to come off very soon. All right, let's take a look. Ooh, that's looking perfect. Okay, I'm actually gonna leave that just for a second, and I'm gonna take off the bacon first. Perfect. Always love it when you get the timing just right on bacon. There, okay, nice. And then as always, whenever we have carbs, lots and lots of butter. We'll get another one going. I would love to hear from you. Which of these breakfasts was your favorite, and which are you going to try? I'd love to hear. And if you do make some of these and try them out, let me know what you think. You can tag me on Instagram. My Instagram username is down in the description. If you'd like a full 30 days of breakfasts, lunch, and dinner recipes that are just like these, along the same lines, then I have a made-for-you meal plan that I put together, and you can check that out in the description. If you like these breakfasts, then you're really gonna like that meal plan. I also have other goodies in the description box for you, free ebooks and all kinds of different things that I've made for you. There is a cooking from scratch workshop down there that you can join. Lots of things to check out. I also have my cast iron griddle and my waffle maker linked down below in case you're interested in seeing what kind I use. But I hope that you enjoy coming along and seeing a week of farmhouse breakfasts that we love to enjoy on a very regular basis. If you did like this video, it would mean a lot to me if you could give it a thumbs up. That really helps my channel. And if you enjoy videos like this about nourishing, nutrient-dense, from-scratch meals and slow, intentional, seasonal living, stay tuned for more videos just like this. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!